Hello students, I, Anuradha Goswami, Senior Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce from the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, welcome you all for the second module of Joint Stock Company. Dear students, in our first module, we have discussed meaning, definition, characteristics and advantages of Joint Stock Company. In our today's module, I begin my presentation with the limitations of Joint Stock Company. In spite of many advantages of company form of business organization, it also suffers from some limitations. So dear students, let us note the limitations of joint stock companies. The first disadvantage of joint stock company is complex and costly procedure for formation. It is not easy to form a joint stock company. It is time-consuming and expensive process, and it requires extensive knowledge of legal formalities. In case of public limited company, additional formalities are required for raising capital and for getting certificate of commencement of business. Thus, these tedious formalities and heavy cost involvement in the process of formation discourages the formation of new joint stock companies. The second demerit of joint stock company is excessive government control. Since inception till liquidation of a company, it is strictly regulated by the Indian Company Act. Joint stock companies are regulated by government through the Companies Act 2013 and other economic legislations. Especially, public limited companies are required to adhere to various legal formalities as provided in the Companies Act and other legislations. Non-compliance of legal provisions results in heavy penalty. This affects the smooth functioning of the companies. Even while performing its normal internal business operations, a company has to follow numerous laws, regulations, notifications, etc. This not only engages the officials of the company in the non-productive activities, but also reduces the freedom of the company. The third drawback of the joint stock company is fraudulent management. Many a time, unscrupulous promoters may bring economic loss to the community by promoting bogus companies. This results in companies being started and managed by incapable and fraudulent hands. Further, these unscrupulous promoters and directors may exploit the company's property and assets for making personal profits at the cost of shareholders. This creates panic among the investors and they might lose their faith in company form of organization. The fourth limitation of a joint stock company is lack of secrecy. As there is compulsion by law for a public company to publish its accounts and submit various reports to the registrar, the secrecy cannot be maintained forever. Employees may leak out the secret trade agreements, technique of production, formula and other necessary matters. Also, a company must provide each shareholder with an annual report. When a large number of reports are issued, the reports become public. These reports present data on sales volume, profits, total assets and other financial matters. Public disclosure of these data enables competitors and other outsiders to see the company's financial condition. The fifth disadvantage of joint stock company is conflict of interest. A company has many stakeholders like the board of directors, shareholders, employees, consumers, promoters, debenture holders, etc. All these shareholders look out for their benefit, and it often leads to a conflict of interest. For example, the employees demand high salary, consumer expects better goods at low prices, shareholder wants high rate of dividend. Hence, for the management of the company, it becomes difficult to satisfy such diverse interests. The sixth demerit of joint stock company is growth of monopoly. A joint stock company is a large-scale business organization having huge resources. This gives a lot of economic and other power to the person who manages the company. There is a great possibility for companies to form combination or amalgamation with a view to get monopolistic control. Thus, the growth of joint stock company leads to the monopoly, which is always against the public interest. This is not only harmful for the other producers in the same line, but also results in the exploitation of consumers, investors and workers as well. The seventh disadvantage of joint stock company is sham democracy. In theory, democratic principles are followed in the management of companies, but in practice, it is nothing but oligarchy of managing directors or directors, leading to concentration of control in few hands. The shareholders have no say in the affairs of the company. As they are spread throughout the country, very few care to attend the meetings, and thus who do not attend normally give proxies in favor of managing directors or directors. All these facilitate the concentration of power in the hands of few persons. The eighth demerit of joint stock company is encouragement to speculation. The company form of organization encourages speculation on the stock exchange. Usually, the value of the company shares depends on the dividend declared and the reputation of the company, which can be manipulated. This may encourage the managing directors and other directors to manipulate the shares on the stock exchange in their own interest, but to the detriment of the majority of shareholders. The ninth disadvantage of joint stock company is lack of initiative. As there is an indirect delegated management in the company form of organization, there is no initiative and motivation. The paid officials who manages the company have no personal interest, and this leads to inefficiency and wastage of time and money. The 10th demerit of joint stock company is lack of prompt decision. The functioning of a company is bound by certain rules and procedures. While routine decisions are taken by concerned department heads, strategic decisions require meeting of board of directors and in some cases meeting of shareholders. Directors normally meets once in a quarter while shareholder meets once in a year. These meetings cannot be called at short notice. The entire process takes time. Thus, a joint stock company cannot take quick decisions and consequently, the opportunities for profit may be lost due to delay in decision making. Dear students, we find a variety of companies in our company. The formation, liability, management and ownership of all companies differ from each other. Let us now learn more about the different kind of companies existing in India. The first type is on the basis of incorporation. The incorporate companies may be classified into three categories. 1. Chartered company. This type of company is formed when a special charter, a royal charter is granted by a king or queen or the head of the country. The term royal charter means a document that is signed by the king or queen of a country and that gives an organization some particular rights. The power, right and function of the chartered company are governed by this charter issued at the time of its formation. Such a royal charter empowers the company to an unrestricted corporate capacity within the jurisdiction of the state. In simple words, a company incorporated by the king or the head of the state is known as a chartered company. East India Company, Chartered Bank of England is the example of this type of company. In India, this form of organization does not exist because there is no monarchy here. Second, statutory company. A company which is formed by a particular act of parliament is known as statutory company. Here, all the power, objects, rights and responsibility of the company are defined under the particular act. This is done mainly to regulate the working of certain companies in the national interest. The word limited may not be used after the name of such company. Each company can exercise its particular power, which is governed by the terms of its special act. Examples of statutory company are Reserve Bank of India, Life Insurance Corporation, etc. Third, registered company. Companies registered or incorporated under the provisions of Companies Act 2013 are known as incorporated or registered companies. After registration, the registrar of companies issues a certificate of incorporation. After that, the company becomes a registered company. It possesses separate legal entity apart from its members. The second type is on the basis of liability, which is further bifurcated into two categories. A. Unlimited liability company. The liability of a member of such companies is unlimited, just like in the case of sole trader or partnership. It means that the members can be called upon to pay an unlimited amount, even from their private property, to satisfy the creditors of the company when it is wound up. Such companies are permitted under the Companies Act but are non-existent. B. Limited company. A limited company is a company whose liability of each member is limited to the face value of the shares held by them. The limited liability company is again bifurcated as companies limited by shares, when the liability of each member is limited to the nominal amount of the shares which he holds is called company limited by shares. If he pays the value of the shares, his liability will be nil. A shareholder is not likely to pay anything more than the fixed value of the shares subscribed, whatever may be the liabilities of the company. Company limited by guarantee. When each member gives a guarantee to contribute a specific amount to the company on its winding up, such company is said to be limited by guarantee. Such type of company is not formed to earn profit, but the object of the company is to promote social, culture and scientific activities, etc. Generally, such companies do not have any share capital. The third type of company is on the basis of public interest, which includes A. Private limited company. These companies can be formed by at least two individuals having minimum paid up capital of not less than rupees 1 lakh. As per the provisions of Companies Act 2013, the total membership of these companies cannot exceed 200, excluding past or present employees of the company who are the members of the company. The shares allotted to its members are also not freely transferable between them. These companies are not allowed to raise money from the public through open invitation. They are required to use Public Limited after their name. B. Public company. It is a voluntary association of persons recognized under the law as a separate legal entity apart from its owner who agree to supply the capital and share the profit and losses. A minimum of 7 members are required to form a public limited company. It must have minimum paid up capital of rupees 5 lakh. There is no restriction on maximum number of members. The shares allotted to the members are freely transferable. These companies can raise funds from general public through open invitation by selling its shares or accepting fixed deposits. These companies are required to write either public limited or limited after their name. Government company. In these companies, the government, either state or central government or both, holds a majority share capital that is not less than 51%. However, companies having less than 51% shareholding by the government can also be called government companies provided control and management lies with the government. Example of government companies are Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, etc. One-person company. One-person company is defined in subsection 62 of Section 2 of the Companies Act 2013. As one-person company means a company which has only one member. And one-person company is a hybrid structure wherein it combines most of the benefits of sole proprietorship and a company form of organization. All the provisions related to the private company are applicable to one-person company unless otherwise expressly excluded. A natural person who is an Indian citizen and resident in India shall be eligible to incorporate a one-person company and shall be the nominee of the one-person company. One-person company is a separate legal entity from its promoter, offering limited liability, protection to its sole shareholder while having continuity of business and being easy to incorporate. The fourth type of company is on the basis of control. Holding company. Under the Companies Act 2013, a holding company is any company which holds more than half of the equity share capital of other company or control the composition of board of directors of other company. The minimum level of ownership of 51% allows the holding company to exercise its control over subsidiary company. Thus, control is used as a benchmark in company law to determine holding company status. The control can be through control of management or through ownership of shares. Subsidiary company. A subsidiary company is a company that is completely or partially owned by another company known as holding company. The holding or parent company must own more than 50% of shares held by the subsidiary company. A subsidiary company operates as a separate and distinct corporation from its parent company. This benefits the company for the purpose of taxation, regulation, and liability. The fifth type of company is on the basis of nationality, national or domestic company. When the operations of a company are confined within the boundaries of one particular country in which it is registered or incorporated, then it can be referred as a domestic company. Foreign company, as per Section 2, subsection 42 of the Companies Act 2013, foreign company means company or body corporate incorporated outside India, having place of business in India, whether by itself or through an agent, physically or through electronic mode, and conducts any business activity in India in any other manner. In simple words, a foreign company is a company formed and registered outside India but having business operations in India. After learning about the types of companies in our country, now dear students, I'll explain the procedure required for the formation of joint stock company as per the Indian Company Act 2013. The procedure for the formation of a company may be divided into four principal stages, namely promotion, incorporation, capital subscription, and commencement of business. Now dear students, let us learn about these stages in detail. The first stage is promotion. Promotion is the first stage for formation of a company. Promotion of a joint stock company starts when the idea of carrying on a business is conceived by promoters. Promoters are persons engaged in one or the other way in the formation of a company. Next, the promoters make detailed study to assess the feasibility of the business idea and the amount of financial and other resources required. When the promoters are satisfied about practicability of the business idea, they take necessary steps for assembling the business elements and making provisions of the funds required to launch the business enterprise. The following steps are required for the promotion of a company: discovery of business idea, discovery of promoters, minimum number of members and directors required to launch the enterprise, investigation, analysis and preparation of plan of company formation, assembling the proposition, financing the proposition, preliminary contracts in case of purchase of business, preparation of important documents such as memorandum of association and article of association, formalities regarding license and permits from the government, preliminary work regarding acquisition of land, plant, machinery, etc., ascertaining the name of the company. The second stage is incorporation. A company cannot be formed or permitted to run its business without registration. In fact, a company comes into existence only when it is registered with the registrar of companies. For this purpose, the promoters has to take the following steps. The first step is approval of name. It has to be ensured that the name selected for the company does not match with the name of any other existing company. For this, the promoter has to fill in a name availability form and submit it to the registrar of companies along with necessary fees. The name must include the words limited or private limited at the end. Once it is approved, the promoter can proceed with other formalities for the incorporation of the company. The second step is filling of documents. After getting the names approved by the promoter, making an application to the registrar of companies of the state in which the registered office of the company is to be situated for registration of the company, the application for registration must be accompanied by the following documents: memorandum of association, article of association, a list of persons who have agreed to become director with their address, etc., written consent of the proposed director to act in that capacity, duly signed by each director, the notice about the exact address of the registered office of the company, a copy of the name, approval letter received from the registrar of the company, a statutory declaration that all the legal requirements of the Company Act as regard to incorporation have been complied with. The third step is payment of filing and registration fees. Along with the above documents, necessary filing fees and registration fees at the prescribed rate are also to be paid. The registrar will scrutinize all the documents, and if he finds them in order, he will issue a certificate of incorporation. The moment the certificate is issued, the company comes into existence. So, this certificate may be called as the birth certificate of a joint stock company. The third stage is raising capital or subscription of capital. After the company is incorporated, the next step is to raise the necessary capital. In case of a private limited company, funds are raised from the members or through arrangement from bank and other resources. In case of public limited company, the share capital has to be raised from the public. The fourth stage is commencement of business. In case of a private limited company, it can immediately start its business as soon as it is registered. However, in case of public limited company, a certificate known as Certificate of Commencement of Business must be obtained from the registrar of company before starting its operation. I would like to conclude this presentation by thanking you, dear students. I hope this video presentation will help you to comprehend all the concepts related to the joint stock company.